Yeah.
Okay, that's
Hunger for
okay.
knowledge.
Ah.
Oh, brown
I gotta
noser.
write that one down. I gotta write that one down.
What is it? Well, that was a great experience. We've had so many good experiences. How does everybody feel?
Good.
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 That's great. Okay, well, we're going to get into something that's a little bit different than what we've been dealing with. Now, we did deal with ethics. Oh, forgot. Sorry. I saw you saw that, yeah.
Chris.
If you will call. Okay, today.
Oh, here it is.
Huh?
You have to know your crowd. Look at it real close.
What?
Chris, this is for you.
Nice.
One of the first things that I wanted to talk to you about today, besides that's for Chris, is some of the cautions of hypnosis. Know your crowd. First thing, you have to know, if you're working with one client, you need to really understand that person. You need to calibrate them. You need to understand your group. Would I do that in the very first class? No, but this is for you, Chris. I'm sorry.
Everybody's picking on you today.
Oh, no, he's been
Tomorrow I
around.
go to class.
That could be a magic show. Set fire to everybody. Set fire to everybody. I don't know.
We know one of the things that and I'm going to use the manual a lot. So if you would turn to page 25, I really think this is one piece we need to look at. If you've never had any kind of difficulties, wonderful. You're very, very lucky. But there are so many possible issues as a hypnotist, a hypnotherapist, a clinical hypnotist, depending on what they call you. Or if you are one of the people that do stage shows, there's issues we've got to deal with. And they're all very clear. And that's number one, is you better understand that you know, if you're working one-on-one, know who your client is, know what their trigger points are, be able to read how their body is telling you certain things, much less their verbal issues. And then if you have a crowd, you have to do the thing, you have to be able to analyze where you are right then. But in the very beginning, and it began much before this, but since we've been doing a lot of organized training, and if we look at what both Erickson and also Ahrens did, they didn't really worry too much about this. They didn't feel that it was that important, or they just didn't stop and think how it could have a direct effect. But we live in a whole different society now. Everybody sues for anything. I almost didn't get the door open. I was ready to sue the hotel, I mean, we have this natural thing that goes on constantly, and the issues are, it's really easy, and it's easy and effortless for us to take our time and to first learn about who we're dealing with. So let's take a look at what the book says to us. We look at threats. What are possible threats that you may have to deal with in cautions in hypnosis? Number one, legal action. Can you be sued? Yes. Do you need any type of insurance? Yes. Protect yourself. But there's other ways to protect yourself before that. But as I said earlier, you can be sued for anything. There are other types of situations, yes, in early stages, and it still could occur. Things like blackmail. Okay, if you're a male working with females or female working with males by yourself, normally we don't have a problem. The people come in to us for one reason, and that's for help. But there are unscrupulous people out there. And those unscrupulous people find this as an opportunity. So we need to prepare ourselves for that. The biggest issues over several years have been issues with sexuality. They have hallucinations of rape. They have hallucinations of other types of sexual attacks. They fantasize. I mean, we have ourselves in a state. It's part of what we do. You know, we were sitting back there in trance, and we were fantasizing certain things happening. We have been doing that this entire week. So if you're dealing with a specific client that feels like that's something that will either be advantageous to them, or they can't help it, and it happens. It's a hallucination. Hypnosis is erotic. You can cut it any way you want. It is erotic. It's very personal. You as a hypnotist dealing with a person, particularly one-on-one, you're in a room by yourself, and you're talking with that person, you're talking with the unconscious, and they can go anywhere they want and do anything they want during that time. So it's extremely, extremely important that you take care of yourself. So, the term that you need to know is transference. And that transference could come from anywhere. It could come directly from something in their past. It could come from something that they fantasize about. They may have seen it on TV, again, or they may just actually be unscrupulous and they have a reason for it. But it's something you have to protect yourself. What are some protections? Well, one protection, if you have that inkling, and you will, because you have that intuition when you're dealing with a client, that there's something wrong here, have a tape recorder. Tape what's going on, but tell your client, fess up. Don't tape them without them knowing. Say, you know, I'm going to be working with you, and I want to make sure that I don't miss anything during the process. So you don't mind if I tape record you. I'll start right now. In that case, you're going to have to be authoritative and say this is the way it is. You know, my style is not authoritative. I'm an Ericksonian. You know, for heaven's sakes, you do your own work and when you're sitting in my chair. I lead you, I seat you, but you yourself have your own styles. And even if you aren't, I know, for example, Ashley, you're also, you do that easygoing, laid back, right? And, you know, you have to be authoritarian in some cases in order to be preventative. And that's what we're talking about, is preventative. And if you do suspect these problems, another issue, and a lot of us can't do this, but some of us can, is have an assistant come into the room when they hear trigger words. And that's always good to have. You don't want to have an assistant in there all the time, unless you're very lucky enough to have someone who you've already again fessed up with your client and saying, you know, I have another hypnotist that I'm working with, I'm mentoring, and I'd like to have them in the room. That's okay, isn't it? Right? Use your language. You know, use all your language with your clients. So you bring that assistant in, or if that's not okay, have them outside. Again, this is, and you'll know about your client if you're going to continue to work with them too. That's another issue. You can always say no for yourself, your own protection. But have a trigger word. They hear that trigger word and they're in that door. And they're seeing what's happening, they're hearing what's happening, and you have a witness. It's horrible to talk about those things, but they're real. They're real issues. So, okay. We need to, let's take a look at our book here. You know, it talks about all the things I've given you about some of the issues with rape and how that can happen in their minds. But you know, some of the things that they don't go into that I can tell you from a personal standpoint, and that's injuries. It says injuries, and it talks a little bit about awakening state and, you know, a person leaving your establishment or your show and not being fully awake. Extremely important. Make sure they're awake. I don't care what it takes to make sure they're awake. You need to use that authoritarian. Yes, you're awake. And the good way to do it is say, now, how do you spell your last name? How do you spell your last name?
D-U-K-E.
Okay, that's right. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I got that right. Now, what time is it right now?
12:27.
Okay. God, you know what, it escapes me. Today's the date?
Thursday.
Thursday, okay, good. And what is the month?
What is it?
So what you're doing, you're making them access, and you can do it more. You say, oh gosh, I need to get your address. What's your address? What's your phone number, and so on. A lot of things that you can make sure before they walk out that door that they are truly, totally cognizant of what's going on. Because people, even though you think, they'll even talk to you. I mean, we talk in trance. Okay, it's what you were doing. Actually, it was like she came up. I didn't realize it. I really didn't realize what was going on. I was watching, and it was like, oh my God, she's still in trance. She went back, sat down, and fumbled, and you put her back up, put her back in, took her back out. It's visible, but again, from a safety standpoint, you have to make sure of that. Okay, let's look at the other entries. Okay. If you're doing, and you did a fantastic job. I want to tell you, really, I've never been that deep in trance in a long time. It was fantastic. One of the things, if you are doing any susceptibility tests, and please make sure whoever you're working with has, and you can tell them, have your feet solidly on the ground, you're feeling very, very comfortable, you have your balance, and so on. Okay, I have a balance problem. I have a knee that's been replaced. I have a hip that's been replaced. I have stenosis. So my balance, when I shut my eyes before, until I'd gone through a lot of physical therapy, it's like, whoa, Jack, So again, it comes right back down to the same thing. Know your clients. Just like I did Chris. Here, I gave Chris the high sign, but I know he's going to get me back. But know who you're dealing with, and make sure you know physically what's going on with those people. I know what physically is going on with those people, so that you don't have a problem. More, they don't have a problem. That's the most important. Okay, sudden shocks, and I know none of us would do this in the room, but I've seen it happen, and I've seen it happen with neophytes. And they'll do it for a reason. They think it's a shock. I mean, I use things like words to say, stop! Or I'll stop talking, or I'll talk like this, and lose them, on purpose, to build in an amnesia state. But some people, and this is something you never do, say, gosh, we just got a phone call, and we heard that such and such had a heart attack and died. Very unscrupulous. The people, does it put people down? It does put people down, but it could also cause a lot of health problems. So again, I know they warn, and when I read it first, I said, people really wouldn't do that. Yeah, people would do that. They don't know.
In trance, a hypnotist would say
A
that?
hypnotist who was just a neophyte thinking they would have dropped them down. Obviously, it's, in the book, I've only seen something, not that extreme, but things to shock people. Very bad, very bad. Cardiac issues. Now, does trance cause a person to have a heart attack? No. Could it happen? It could happen. The other piece, what happens if the hypnotist is standing there in front of you and suddenly, and again, this is something to fess up to your client, and he has a heart attack. You saw the same movie I did.
Okay.
Yeah, great movie. And the guy died, but he gave him a post-hypnotic, and it will wear off.